Before we start tonight's meeting, I just want to make a note. The most recent emergency executive order about gatherings and face masks, exceptions to face mask requirements. Although a face mask is strongly encouraged even for individuals not required to wear one, except for children under the age of 2, the requirement to wear a face mask in gatherings as required by this order does not apply to individuals who, 1, are younger than 5 years old, B, cannot medically tolerate a face mask, skip a few down to section K, are giving a speech for broadcast or to an audience, provided that the audience is at least 12 feet away from the speaker. So I want to say, 1, thank you to our staff who's worked so carefully and hard to make us socially distance and as safe as possible. And 2, I'm going to use the exception, part K, to this executive order to not wear a mask while I'm speaking. I think it's a lot more helpful to residents and members of the audience. So I think that allows other board members to make that decision if they so choose also. It is 7 o'clock. The meeting will come to order. I am Grace Lesperance, Cascade Township Supervisor. Clerk Slater, please call the roll.
Trustee Shipley.
Here.
Trustee Nordhook.
Here.
Treasurer Pierce.
Here.
Trustee McDonald.
Here.
Trustee Kessel.
Here.
Clerk Slater. Here. Supervisor Lesperance.
Thank you. Before we start, we want to welcome someone in the audience tonight. We have a Boy Scout, Mr. Andy Zick. He's attending tonight's public meeting. He's working towards earning his Eagle Scout badge or status. Rank?
Yes.
Thank you. Andy is also Trustee Nordhook's grandson. So we want to welcome you, Andy, and also thank you for choosing tonight's meeting to earn a badge by attending this public meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You get a badge for your grandfather?
According to Trustee Nordhook, this is our first public meeting in a long time, not just virtual. So it's his first opportunity.
First opportunity, yeah.
Please rise if possible for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the agenda. Is there discussion or a motion for approval of tonight's agenda?
Motion to approve. Support by Shipley.
It's a motion to approve by Trustee Kessel, supported by Trustee Shipley. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Article 4, presentations. Article 4, presentations. I apologize. I had a comment about the consented or the proposed meeting minutes.
That's in.
We have no presentations this evening. However, we wanted to remind people that the PFAS Community Information Forum will be next Monday, April 19th at 6 o'clock. This will be held via Zoom. So we want to encourage all impacted or also just interested residents to participate. Thank you to the Eagles personnel, also certain residents, and also Manager Swayze for working together and working hard to make this happen. Next, public comments. We will now proceed to public comments. Please limit those to 3 minutes, and anyone wishing to speak at this time, please step up to the podium. There will be another opportunity later on in the meeting. Assistant Manager Fast, do we have anyone in the audience virtually that would like to speak?
Thank you, Supervisor Lesperance. For anyone that's joining us virtually, you can raise your hand and you will be given permission to speak in the Zoom. If you're joining us via telephone, you can press *9. and that will raise your hand. There are no raised hands at this time, Supervisor Lesperance.
Thank you. That concludes this portion of our public comments. Article 6, approval of the consent agenda. Is there any discussion or motion at this point regarding the consent agenda?
Supervisor, I need to make a change, a correction on the minutes from March 24th. There was just a numbering error on the agenda last time. So there were two number 32s. So we need to change 32 to 33, 33 to 34, 34 to 35, and 35 to 36, which the original and the correction will be shown in the final draft if you approve it.
Thank you, Clerk Slater. Trustee Nordhook.
Yeah, I'm going through the minutes here of the 24th, and it appears that there's some inaccuracies as far as public comment. There wasn't enough detail as to what that public comment was. We also had, with the bus contract, we focused a lot on the 28th Street route, but we really completely forgot the 36th Street route. So I think we need to look at that one again. We did the special assessment districts. And then, yeah, it's really the public comment, just wasn't enough detail to. And then again, we were, I think, 5 days late getting them posted for the Open Meetings Act. So that's my comment. I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception that the proposed 24th of March minutes are removed and edited to correct the inaccuracies.
Thank you. Any discussion or comment, additional comments? I would note that we received, I received at least multiple comments from residents who were unhappy with the summarization of their comments. I would support Trustee Nordhook's recommendation that we edit those comments. We have specific notes I made just in case if they need to be edited right now to more accurately reflect resident statements, or we could table that and look at it separately. Does anyone have any discussion or comments?
You have to take a second before comments. Please.
Shipley supports Timmy's motion.
Thank you.
I'd like to speak to that, Supervisor. About the comment about the minutes not being detailed enough. I do have a legal opinion here, which was shared with us. And the standard is that the minutes should be an effective transcript of the meeting, should not be an effective transcript of the meeting, nor an in-depth narrative of what occurred. Some municipal minutes do not mention the name of members of the public who speak to the public body or indicate a summary of what they said. Best practice is to list the name of the person who spoke at the public meeting together with a short summary of what they said. Technically, the minutes called for by the Open Meetings Act is simply a written summary of the particular municipal meeting involved. So they're not intended to be a transcript. That is why they are very summarily.
Thank you, Clerk Slater. And I understand this is in your duty as clerk. Does that legal authority state anything regarding the need to be accurate? Because I think that was the concern that we heard from residents, that they were inaccurately summarized.
Well, we can make the corrections for the, as stated, we can make the corrections for the record.
Okay, my question would be then, those specific inaccuracies were not noted today. So how would we recommend making those changes? Today specifically, I have the notes that I brought, or we could do that off the record.
We can enter the email into the record and edit the minutes with corrections. and then approve those minutes.
And how do we enter that into the page summary that I thought that I have just in case?
Go for it.
Why don't they just get submitted and then the next meeting, you can submit the summary that you've got of inaccuracies.
Okay. I would also like to comment to Clerk Slater and Trustee Nordhook's statement regarding the timing of when these minutes were made available. It's my understanding that the Open Meetings Act requires draft minutes such as these be made available for viewing within 8 days of the meeting, which is being summarized. That would have been April 5th that was required, and these were released on April 9th. So this is again not in compliance with the Open Meetings Act. So I would like clarification on that specific issue before signing my approval, which is required as supervisor.
I think it says 8 business days.
Correct.
With spring break, was it 8 business days this time?
I didn't count them. But I
It was,
think the statute says 8 business days.
but it was 12.
Supervisor or Manager Swayze, I sent those to you, I believe, I sent them to you on email by about March 30th, I believe it was.
Then the statute does not address sending them to a staff member by email. It addresses making them available for public
Right, but then
notice.
they were posted on the website immediately.
I believe they were posted on the website on March 30th, but I'll have to go back through our records in order to confirm that.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I hope that's the case.
Right.
I'm concerned because it's been an issue in the past, and I just want to stress this township's commitment to following the Open Meetings Act. Thank you. So that was a motion by Trustee Nordhook to approve the consent agenda with the exception of the proposed March 24th meeting minutes, seconded by Trustee Shipley. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Article 7, financial actions. Consider the approval of the February 2021 payroll, payables, and transfers, as well as the February 2021 financial reports. There a motion?
Shipley makes a motion to approve them as they're recorded.
Support.
It's a motion by Trustee Shipley, supported by Trustee Kessel, to approve the financial actions in Article 7. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Is there any unfinished business? Hearing none, we will proceed. Article 9, new business. Item 36, 2021, contract with Hamilton Helicopters, Inc. for gypsy moth suppression services. Manager Swayze?
Great, thank you. It's good to see everybody in person. So in the fall of 2020, Cascade Township contracted with Aquatic Consulting Services LLC to conduct a gypsy moth egg mass survey to determine the areas that might require aerial spraying for 2021. As a result of that survey, it's been recommended that approximately 755 acres of the township be sprayed for gypsy moth suppression. It should be noted that the recommended acreage is similar to what we sprayed in 2020, but significantly lower than years previous to that. In 2018, we sprayed 1,115 acres and 1,889 acres in 2019. So 2020 brought a significant reduction in the spray area to 736 acres. And our biologist, Aquatic Consulting Services, indicates that Cascade Township is in a much better shape than the rest of the state right now. The gypsy moth populations are still on a downward trend in Cascade, but other areas of the state, including areas of West Michigan populations, are on a marked upward trend. Even some areas immediately adjacent to Cascade are starting to see a population rebound. So the townships utilized Mid-Michigan Helicopters, Inc., or had utilized Mid-Michigan Helicopters, Inc. for gypsy moth suppression services since the onset of our program until 2015. And in that year, Mid-Michigan Helicopter was bought by Hamilton Helicopter, and they've been overseeing our spray program for the last 6 years. Our spray program last year was successful with no known issues reported from the contractor or residents in the affected area. As I mentioned, we sprayed last year, spring of 2020, 736 acres. So 2020 was the last year of our 3-year spray contract with Hamilton Helicopter. So we're not in contract right now. The 2020 contract rate was $61.75. The 2021 spray contract proposal from Hamilton Helicopter calls for spraying 755 acres at a cost of $62.20 per acre, which is an increase of less than 1%. So it'd be anticipated that the cost of the 2021 spray program would be $46,961. So if approved by the Township Board, the program will take place in the time period between May 1st and June 15th, with a more specific date available when the weather breaks. The Township's required to notify all residences in the spray block area of the program, and any of the objectors of the spray program are eligible to be removed from the spray block. So I included quite a bit of information in your packet. There's the proposed agreement with Hamilton Helicopter. There's the communication from Aquatic Consulting Services regarding the program, the map of the proposed spray blocks for 2021, gypsy moth information brochure that's published by the MSU Extension, and in addition, a information packet regarding Bacillus thuringiensis that is used as a spray. So as I mentioned, we've been using the same company, though different ownership, for going on 23 years now for the spray program. And traditionally, the townships participated in the program because the acknowledgement, the devastating effect the gypsy moth population can have on the tree canopy of the township. So during the onset of our program, it was not uncommon for the township to spray 1,000 to 2,000 acres per year. The continued treatment has allowed the program to be successful and our gypsy moth population to be controlled. The partnership with both Aquatic Consulting Resources and Hamilton Helicopters has allowed us to efficiently allocate our financial resources to this program. And the survey ensures that the aerial spray program effectively targets only areas of infestation above set thresholds, and on several occasions has saved us from unnecessarily spraying, as was the case in 2013, 2010, and 2011 when we didn't spray at all. So the Infrastructure Committee reviewed the gypsy moth program at their March meeting, and based on the report from Aquatic Consulting Services, the committee recommended the board approve the contract with Hamilton Helicopters to spray the full 755 acres. As I mentioned, the proposed rate is $62.20 per acre, which is 45 cents per acre more than the 2020 contract, and really only represents the cost of the spray material, the increased cost of the spray material. The total cost of the program would come to just short of $47,000. The township's budgeted $50,000 for this program in 2021. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have, but the Infrastructure Committee has recommended that the Township Board approve the agreement with Hamilton Helicopters for gypsy moth suppression services.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Trustee Shipley?
Hey, Mr. Swayze, got a quick question for you. In the past, we've been fortunate enough to make a contract with the spraying service and have reduced fee. Is that on the horizon anywhere in the next couple of years?
So when we did that 3 or now 4 years ago, the reason was because there was a huge acreage that we needed to spray. And of course, the contractor who was interested in getting the contract was agreed to lower it $3 per acre, but we had to agree to spray at least 500 acres each year. Now this year, he didn't add that $3 back in. So we're only paying 45 cents over the contract from last year, which is effectively a discount because we ran a 3-year program. So there's certainly an opportunity to look at a multi-year program, but we're already kind of getting the discount that we got for signing the multiple year contract in the past.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah.
Manager Swayze, how do residents know if they are in the targeted range, and also how can they opt out?
Yep, so we are ready. We have had all the map entered into our GIS system. The letters are ready to be produced tomorrow if the board does approve this. So everybody that's in the spray block will get a specific letter. And then of course we advertise it just like we do everything else as well. So it'll go on the gypsy moth portion of our website. It'll go out on the Facebook page. The calls get directed to me. I'm the point contact for this particular program. And typically when somebody calls and is concerned, I ask them to speak to our biologists about it. That's part of our contract with him, as he talks to the residents that have more concerns than some of the other people do. So I asked them to talk to them first. If they talk to them and they decide they're still not interested in participating, the reason we go with a helicopter service instead of a biplane service is because they can take out a individual parcel out of a spray block. Whereas if you're applying with a biplane, it's like coating a field. So the helicopter is very specific. We have a drift management plan to make sure that the spray doesn't drift on other properties. So we have always historically allowed people, once they talk to the biologist, if they still want to opt out. I will note that the township does have the right to not let them opt out. We've never done that before. But the concern is always that if you get enough people in a certain area that opt out, the program isn't effective and you're going back and spraying that place the next year. So that's something we're always cognizant of, but we've never told somebody, at least in the history that I've been here, that they can't opt out.
Thank you.
Yep.
Have you had people opt out much?
I wouldn't say much. So I'd say probably 75% of the people that call talk to the biologist and kind of have their fears calmed. He's very good. But every year I probably get, 6 to a dozen people that call. And then, in the bigger years, I'd say we'd have, 2 or 3 people that would actually opt out. In the smaller years, it's not uncommon not to have anybody opt out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a motion?
Shipley makes a motion to approve the gypsy moth spray program for this year.
Support.
It's a motion by trustee Shipley, supported by trustee McDonald, to approve the contract as submitted with the Hamilton Helicopters, Inc. for gypsy moth suppression services. Item 37, 2021.
Take the vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Clerk Slater, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Shipley,
Yay.
trustee Nordhook,
Yes.
treasurer Pierce,
Yes.
trustee McDonald,
Yes.
trustee Kessel,
Yes,
clerk Slater, yes, supervisor Lesbrunz.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion carried. Item 37, 2021. Appointments to the Township Park Committee. That was made by myself, supervisor. We have one appointment tonight. It's Dr. Matthew Douglas. We're super excited. Personally, I'm very excited about Mr. Douglas's willingness to be on the Parks Committee. He has a bachelor's degree from U of M in pre-medical studies. He has a master's degree in aquatic biology from Eastern Michigan, and he has a doctorate in evolutionary biology and biophysical ecology from the University of Kansas. So he's currently a professor of zoology and anatomy and physiology right here at Grand Rapids Community College. He's also an adjunct professor at Michigan State. I attached his resume to the packet. It's pretty impressed with his resume and his background, and I think he'll be a great addition to the township. He contacted me after the discussion on the Wycliffe property becoming a potential park. Is there any discussion or motion?
I move to approve.
support.
It's a motion by trustee McDonald, supported by trustee Kessel.
I just have a question. Did we have somebody resign or just had an opening?
Because it's the Parks Committee, there are no set number of spaces or positions, so neither. He was just a good fit.
Is that the way on some of our other committees? I'm not sure. Okay.
For the Parks Committee, it is. Am I correct, Manager Swayze?
That's my understanding. Yes.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next, item 37, 2021, appointments, or excuse me, 38, 2021, appointments to the Citizen PFAS Advisory Committee.
Did you say that you had one, you still had to fill?
Yes.
Okay. Is there, maybe when you meet Monday night, are there people on there that you're gonna ask? Because it would be good to have somebody in that affected area if they're willing to serve.
Yes,
Are
so
all the other people in that area?
they are,
Okay,
yes.
that's good. Make a motion to approve.
Support.
That's a motion by trustee Kessel, supported by trustee McDonald, to approve the appointments to the Citizen PFAS Advisory Committee as stated in the April 14th, 2021 supervisor memo. Thank you to all those willing to serve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next, public comments. Again, anyone wishing to speak is welcome at the podium in person, and please try to limit your comments to 3 minutes. Or, I'm sorry, yes, we have the microphone. You're not required to stand. Thank you. Ask him to state his name.
Thank you for that. Craig Merlin from Thorn Hills Court. I looked at the statistics in the police report that was included in the materials. I didn't understand quite what hold time was. Response time seemed to be 15 to 20 minutes. I was blown away in appreciation for the fire department's 4-minute rule about getting to someplace. If someone called the police on 911 and said there was an intruder trying to get in the house or in the house, are they going to wait 15 to 20 minutes? Because that effectively leaves the resident having to use self-defense. And while some of us can, others might not be able to, and it's not what we moved to Cascade for.
Thank you, Mr. Merlin. Manager Swayze, I'll let you comment on this.
I have to come up here so people on virtual can hear me.
Thank you.
So I think at some point, I was thinking about this earlier when I put these in, it might be good to have Lieutenant DeBode come out and talk specifically more about these statistics. The problem with that statistic is it is the average call time for all of the calls. So, if somebody is, having a burglary emergency, the response time might be a couple minutes. If somebody is reporting that somebody broke into their garage and stole their rake over the weekend, the response time may be 3 hours. So it's not a good representation of, the most important calls and what the response time is. So I think it would be good in the future, maybe in presentations, to have Lieutenant DeBode come and talk a little bit more about that, and also get feedback from the board about how maybe to improve the statistic sheets as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
Do you have any information, Manager Swayze, about what is meant by hold time?
So hold time is the time that somebody is on a 911 call before they call the police, before somebody is dispatched to the scene. So the response time could actually be considered the hold time plus the response time, because you have a hold time until somebody is dispatched, and then you have the time from their dispatch to they actually get there. So again, you're going to be on hold a lot longer, if you're talking about a non-emergency call than if you're talking about an emergency call.
Thank you. Mr. Merlin, does that answer your question enough for now, or?
For now, I assume that it was an average. I also hope that police keep sort of a triage of emergency, et cetera, so that I can get a sense that if there is an intruder in the house, the police will be there quickly.
I agree. Thank you. Any other residents wishing to speak? Assistant Manager Fast can bring you the microphone. Sir? Oh, thank you.
Hi, Paul Strauss, 7474 Alaska Ridge. I was just hoping for an update on the Thornapple River SAD. I think at the last meeting it was shelved or tabled, but it wasn't really clear. So if you could give us an update, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you. I will address that in the board member comments that are coming up following the public comment. So thank you, and I will do that.
Thank you, Keely Shea, Alaska Ridge, and I am following up with our request at the last meeting. It's nice to see you all in person instead of behind the screen. Our neighborhood had gotten together and proposed that there be a question and answer period, because we really have, during this whole time, those of us that have been trying to become informed, we really feel like our questions have been either dismissed or not answered many times. And there's definitely a shift happening, and we're appreciative of that. So I'm actually just going to go ahead and ask the questions and ask that we could have answers cited with the resources cited as well. And then if there are any residents that have answers. So kind of at a bigger worldly level, and wondering how we are handling it within our own community. Excuse me, I'd like to know whose decision it was to enact the stringent lockdown and mask mandates for our local businesses and our township buildings and our offices, in the township offices. And in essence, force these lockdown and mask mandates on our residents and our children. And I'd like to know what research and expert sources were consulted and were received to support the decisions that have been made at a township level. Then I'd also like to know what scientific and medical expert research recommendations, local resident input was consulted and is being consulted when making the emergency cited orders and mandates enacted upon our Cascade community. And if we could have the expert cited and any peer-reviewed studies supporting this, we would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shea. I do not have that information well enough to speak in public. If any board member or staff would like to comment right now, they're free to do so. We can also get that information, and someone will be in touch with you shortly. Thank you.
Hello, Luann Strauss, 7474 Alaska Ridge. Just have a question too. So in my understanding, there is more pandemic money out there. And I'm just curious if Cascade Township is allocated any of that, and if so, what that dollar amount might be.
Thank you. I was informed by staff recently that Cascade is expecting to receive approximately $1.9 million in stimulus relief. We have not received that yet. I don't know if that is the exact amount. That is what I've been notified of. And we don't know what restrictions or limitations are attached to those funds. When we get more information, the township will provide that. Manager Swayze, do you have anything to add?
Stole my thunder for my manager comments.
Sorry.
So I'll just make it now.
Everyone wants to announce $1.9 million.
Yeah, yep, exactly. So, yep, the information you have is correct. The initial listing that was put out by several government agencies, including the Michigan Township Association, shows that Cascade Township is going to receive somewhere in the proximity of $1.9 million. There's been some very loose information out there about what the money can be spent on. We've gotten no actual guidance from the federal government yet, but the initial thing that's being put out there is that it is a little bit looser than the guidelines that came out before, and there's some specific things about infrastructure in there that we might be able to spend that money on. The latest that I have heard is that they're expecting the first round of payments to come out in May or June of 2021. And we should expect to receive half of that money at that time, and then the other half of that money a year from then. And then the township actually has until 2024 to expend those funds. So The good news is it sounds like there's a larger breadth of things the township board can consider to spend that money on, and there's a long or time period to actually spend that money. But without having that specific guidance from the federal government, it's really hard to start that discussion at this point.
Thank you.
Ben, while you're still there, can some of that money maybe be used to put in the system that we have to put in order to get clean water to those people whose wells are contaminated?
Yes, so the initial, again, and it was really just a half a paragraph of things you can spend that on. The only thing that they specifically listed in there was water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. So it's pretty clear that those things are going to be things that the funds can be spent on. It's all the other extraneous stuff that we really don't know yet.
Okay.
Thank you. Assistant Manager Fast, do we have any members of the audience virtually who would like to comment?
Thank you, Supervisor Lesperance. If any of the residents in the audience would like to speak, now is the time you can raise your hand. If you're joining us via telephone, you can press *9 and it will raise your hand. There are no raised hands at this time, Supervisor Lesperance.
Thank you. That concludes the public comment portion of tonight's meeting. Manager comments, Article 12. Manager Swayze?
I already made my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Board member comments. Do we have any board members wishing to make comments tonight? Treasurer Pierce?
I'm just glad to see everybody. It's been a year. And it seems like when we're together physically, we have a lot shorter meetings. Thank you for coming.
That's what I was going to say. So can echo my comments. It's nice to be back in this building again.
Trustee Shipley?
As always, I gotta stand up and thank you guys for coming. Mr. Merlin, it's nice to see you actually. I've heard of you quite frequently, of course. Keely, thanks for coming down. And Strauss, it's nice meeting you. You can see we have a lot of vacant chairs. Bring back your neighbors next time too, because your input is what we need. Thank you.
I'd just like to thank everybody for coming, and congratulations, Andrew, on your Eagle Scout endeavors. Thank you.
That's quite a feat. Congratulations. That takes a lot of work. We've had Eagle Scouts here before, and it's always pleasant to see a new young face earning their Eagle badges.
Do you get an extra badge for having Tim as your grandfather?
It's a little larger in size, maybe. I'll comment on Mr. Strauss's question about the special assessment district. Both the Laraway Lake and the Thornapple Special Assessment Districts were tabled by this board at our March 24th meeting. This was because of a procedural error in the creation of the SAD in that process. I spoke with Attorney Bloom. He is addressing this issue and also in the process of drafting an opinion on what steps are required moving forward. And I've shared with him that the importance of moving this process forward quickly, bringing the issue back to the board as quickly as possible. So feel free to forward any more questions to myself or Manager Swayze, but we will be addressing this as soon as possible. Thank you. We did receive a couple questions from residents about the Wycliffe property that was discussed as a possible new park location and whether or not that had been rezoned or any changes had been made regarding possible multi-house use. According to staff, that has not been brought to the township's attention or decided on by any township board or commission. So the Parks Committee is continuing to evaluate this property, its possible acquisition for a park, which would be used for passive recreational use. And any types of zoning changes or variance requires public notice before any board action. And in this case, the Parks Committee would anticipate that we would be informed of any upcoming deliberations or recommendations. So no change in the status of that property, just residents' concerns. Thank you. Article 14, is there a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting?
Shipley makes motion to adjourn. Support.
Motion by trustee Shipley to adjourn, supported by trustee Nordhook. All in favor? Opposed? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you all for attending.
Ben?